What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're going to talk about physical preparation before a game. Okay, and now that we're in the midst of championship, I know people are starting, even at some stages, getting to the end stage of championship. What I want to kind of talk through today, and this is applicable for GAA, it's applicable for rugby, it's applicable for soccer, running. It's applicable for nearly any sport. I'm going to talk about it in general sense, but I might just bring it back because there's a lot of people who play GAA. I might bring it back to kind of focusing in on that a small bit more as we go through the podcast. But the general principles apply across the board. Okay, so just make sure that you do kind of get a better understanding of what I'm saying. And then if you have any questions after, just send them on to me on Instagram. And I'm happy to say that a lot of people are actually starting to reach out to me on Instagram about podcasts with different questions, and to be honest, that actually directs the podcast that I do then in the next couple of weeks. So this one was actually a question that I got last week. Someone asked me about how do I prepare myself physically for a game, and they were asking about priming. So I said I would just put this together and hopefully give you a bit more insight into what you can do to get yourself physically ready for the game. Now, before I jump into this, I've been talking about the last couple of podcasts. Anyone who's been listening to my podcasts know that I work with people with long-term injuries who struggle to overcome those injuries, okay? And it's generally active people. So it's either sports related, you don't have to be involved in sports, but as long as you are involved, or not as long, but really it is active people that are committed to getting themselves better because there's a certain injury holding them back from doing something that they love. And that's generally what I focus in on. So if you know anyone, or if you yourself are struggling with an injury, whether it be a hip injury, a knee injury, could be back pain, a shoulder injury, whatever it is, just get in contact, reach out. What we'll do is we will talk through it a small bit. If it's the right fit, we'll set up a call, and then I will talk you through different options of what you can do to improve that condition. Now, at the end of the call, I'll talk you through some of the stuff that I do. If it's something that you are interested in, then you can jump on board and we can make a plan going forward. If it's not, at least then you'll have a better idea of what you can do yourself to get yourself right and to put yourself in a better position to return to sport or just improve your performance overall. So if anyone is interested in that, the easiest way to get in contact is just send me an email at mobilitytutor@gmail.com, or you could also reach out to me on Instagram and just send me a quick message and say, "Hi Robbie, whatever, I was listening to your podcast, I'm struggling with this injury. Have you any ideas on what I could do for it?" And then, as I said, we'll talk about it a small bit more, jump on a call, and then we can go through the rest of the process. And you can see if it's the right thing for you, or if you just want to get a better understanding of what to do, no problem either. Okay, so to not leave it any further and to jump straight into the podcast, I want to talk about, first off, why is it important to physically prepare yourself before a game? Now, really what I'm talking about here is in the 24 to 48 hours before a game. Different things that you can do to get yourself ready to play, get your body right, and just kind of improve your overall position or how you're feeling about that game and how you're feeling about your body before that game, okay, or that competition or that event. So why is it important? Well, it helps to control your arousal levels. So if you're ticking off all the boxes, if you have a set routine the day of a game, your body it gets used to different triggers, and it will allow you, or it'll let you move from one thing to the next, and then you'll notice that because of that, once you tick off one box, you'll be on to the next step, and then that routine will lead you to the next thing, and then you won't be sitting back just thinking about the game all day or thinking about your event all day, but you will be in a better position to play that game because of the fact that you'll be physically prepared. The body will be feeling good, okay, so you won't be worrying about the body as much or what you should do, and you won't feel as rushed. So you don't want to be over aroused early in the day. You don't want to be hyper alert really early in the day, because that's going to sap some of your energy. You need to save that energy for the game and for the time leading up to the game, so that you can play your best, that you can, let's say if you have teammates, that you can also lift them on and bring them on, and just overall, so you're giving yourself the best chance to perform as best as you can, and also to win as well, okay, because you want to be, obviously, if you're competing, you want to be setting yourself at a higher level. You want to be always trying to improve week in, week out. It's not always about the other people. Again, it is like in who else you're competing against, but it is about making sure that you are setting yourself up as best you can each day, so you can go out and perform, so that when you look back on it, you can say, okay, I did very well here, and you're happy out with your performance. And then you can also look back and reflect and say, well, this is what I need to improve on. And this is, I guess, it's a general principle across life. It doesn't have to be just in sports. It's always nice, and I'm sure that anyone who's listening to this podcast is always looking to improve themselves, because why else would you be listening? You're always trying to improve yourself on something. You're like, I have noticed that a lot of people that reach out to me, a lot of people that I talk to on Instagram, I do love the platform for that. I love that you talk to so many people about their life and about different things of what they do and what they focus on. And in general, a lot of the people that are interested in the topics that I speak about on Instagram are interested in like longevity, performing at their best, making sure they're doing the best for themselves, and then also the best for their team or whatever community they're involved in, which is great to see. So looking at that, as I said, you're looking to control your arousal levels. Now, the actual mobility and movement side of things then will help you to relax the body, but it will also improve your awareness of your body. Okay, so it'll kind of set your nervous system right so that it has a better awareness of your body and what you're actually feeling like before that game. Okay, so it is good that way, in that it kind of gives you a better understanding of where you need to work on a small bit more before it, and it gives you a better understanding of if there's little aches and pains there. Are they actually an issue, or are they okay, and that you can actually push on and work away? And then I'm going to talk about something called PAP, which is post-activation potentiation. Now, it's a very scientific term, but it's basically nervous system priming. And priming your nervous system can be a very effective strategy in improving your power output during the game, so that your, let's say, your acceleration improves, your jump improves, your sprint speed improves, and you're using basically a very, very easy set of exercises to put you in a position that your nervous system is sharper and feeling stronger. Now, on top of that, you can also look at some of the other things I'm going to talk about, is actually reducing fatigue levels and making sure that you're more alert cognitively. And then on top of that, actually calming the mind and kind of keeping you in more of a relaxed state as well. As I talked about, you want to control your arousal levels as best as you can, because like a fighter, or if you're looking at fighting sports, you don't want to be completely jacked up, ready to go way before, because then it'll take all your energy, it'll take your concentration, and you'll go in too hard. You kind of want to get in at the right level. You don't want to be going in way over aroused or way under aroused. Okay, so it's going to be different for everybody. So I suppose the best way to start off is, what do you not want to do the day of a game, and maybe the day before a game as well. So things that you not want to do too much. Okay, so things you should leave out, I should say. Now, too much exercise early in the day or too much exercise the day before is obviously the number one thing you don't want to do, because you don't want to fatigue yourself. Now, what does that mean? Well, some people overshoot what they do the day of the game, and they try to say, well, okay, I'm going to go on an exercise bike. I might go for like a light jog in the morning or a run. I might go for a swim, and then they spend a lot longer. Or some people actually just get a ball, if it's football, and they go kicking for way too long in the early hours of the day, like an hour of kicking or 40 minutes of kicking, and that will fatigue the legs. So you want to avoid that as much as possible. And then the day before the game as well, you don't want to be out doing a load of kicking or a lot of strenuous exercise, because it's not going to give you any benefit for the game, and it's only taken from the battery. Let's say your body's a battery. It's only reducing the energy levels that you will have in the game. Now, another one, and it's actually one that I suppose a lot of people might think would be beneficial but may not be as effective as you would think, is sleeping in the day of a game. So actually trying to catch up on sleeping in way too much. So you want to avoid that as well, because you don't want to be overslept, because if you're overslept, you're actually kind of groggy, you're tired, and it's a change in your routine, and changes in your routine are not the best idea the day that you need to perform. You want to keep relatively the same type of routine as what you usually have, and the same sleep cycle what you usually have, because that will let the body be prepared. You can get up in the morning, get ready to go, have all your stuff packed or whatever, pack yourself and then get ready. But if you're sleeping in up until 2 hours before a game, so in some cases that can affect your performance and that you'll be groggy. Okay, so we need to watch that out. Now that's probably more for the earlier games as opposed to the later games, but just keep an eye on it altogether. Okay. The other thing that people do, I guess, is that they do nothing at all. So they wake up and they just chill out a whole day, and then they wait for the game to come up. And on the same side as doing too much, doing too little the day of a game, you're going to feel like you can't get your energy up when you do get there. Okay, so just sitting down all day and sitting on the couch is not an effective strategy either, because of the fact that when you do start moving and when you do start running, you'll feel gassed. You'll feel like that you can't get your energy, you can't get your second wind. And it is important to do small things throughout the day just to make sure that the heart rate is up and that your body and your mind is ready to go. Okay, so avoid just sitting all day. And then with that, I guess the next thing is that people spend a lot of time, and I see this a lot with clients at literally every level, from the, let's say, a normal intermediate level to inter-county level to semi-pro to professionals, players that are playing up in the Premier League, and they are spending way too long on their phone the day of a game. Now, obviously, if it's worked for them guys, like especially for the high end, I'm not going to be telling them to change it that much, but I would just be telling them to watch out, because it does fatigue you, and it fatigues you. It takes you have to be alert for so long, and you have to be concentrated for so long that when you get to the game, it's going to, you're sapping some of that energy of what you could use. Now, is it distracting you? Maybe it is, and you could use that excuse if you wanted it, but it does take your attention, and attention is a finite resource. It's not something that you can just use, or it's not something you have all day. And if it is, then you would see that people would be able to sit down from 9 till 6 and just work as hard as they could, and keep their attention all day. But they can't. You need breaks during the day. You need to recharge your battery. Okay, so that's why if you're on your phone, because it's taking your attention, you don't want to have that all drawn out of you before you get into the game, or you'll be tired when you get to the game. You'll find it harder to focus. So I would say avoiding that is an important one. And then another one that kind of goes with that is the same, and on the same level, is playing video games throughout the day, playing a lot of them, or watching TV or movies. Not as much of an issue, is a small bit, but where you're locked in, like you're like playing FIFA, let's say, or Madden, or whatever you're playing, BA, Call of Duty, whatever it is, but you're playing them way too late in the day, so right up to the time of the game, and then you're fatigued, you're tired, you're not moving around, you're just sitting down, and it's just taking a lot of your cognitive energy away from you. It's taking a lot of your attention away. So avoid playing too many video games as well. Now, you will see that in some situations it can be beneficial in that it can heighten your alertness, but if you're doing that for a couple of hours before it, well, then that alertness, that improvement in alertness can be affected by the amount of concentration that it takes. So it's going to be there's going to be a drop in concentration as well, and it's going to be cognitive load, so it's tiring. Okay, so just keep an eye on that. Now, you do you at the same time. I'm just giving you different things of what you need to watch out for. Okay, and then I guess from what, it's not that I said what not to do, but I suppose I probably should say what you need to be aware of as opposed to what not to do. And there are things you want to be aware of. You want to make sure that you are taking care of those early on. Now, another thing is trying to eat a load of food the day of the game, or trying to drink a load of water the day of the game. You want to have all that done in the week before it, so that you're just taking over and keeping everything filled up, basically, when the game comes around. Now, I guess the next thing is what you could include. And I'm not saying that everyone has to include these, or I'm not saying that these are necessary, but they're things that I think can improve your performance and can improve your physical preparation for the game, because they put the body into a better state of what it should be. So things that you could include, well, I think one very important one would be going for a walk early in the day, and getting for a walk in nature as well. So let's say if you're playing, if you have a squash game in the evening, actually taking a walk, relaxing yourself down, getting out into nature, walking up to a riverside, sitting down, just kind of chilling out, watching the water flow, getting back, walking back to your car and just driving in and just letting the mind relax will be an excellent way of doing that. But I would do it early in the day. Okay, you can do it later in the day if you want to, but you want to kind of get your stages of prep right, so that you're not trying to fit in things too close to the game, that you're putting yourself under pressure to get to the game. So that's kind of why I say early, but it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. Now, after that, I would say enjoy your day. So do different things that you enjoy, whether it be hanging out with your friends, chatting, whether it be with your family, that you're all together. Anything that you just feel that you enjoy that bit more will help you get ready for the game. And that's not too strenuous. So things like, as I was saying, going for that walk, It could be like even a very light cycle. Now, not too far, not too long, not strenuous, just keeping it on the 10-15 minute mark, nothing too much, and making sure it's on like flat ground, very easy pace, all that stuff. The walk as well is good. If you want to, some people I know they like to get in the sea. I don't do it myself. I don't tell any of my clients to do it. But if it's something that works for you, do. Something that you could also do if you wanted to early in the morning would be include a cold shower. But as I said, don't change your routine so drastically that the body actually has to kind of recalculate and figure out everything that it's doing. You just want to be adding in very small things, but that are fairly in line and fairly consistent with your general routine throughout the week and your general routine before a training game. Now, other things you can do, especially to look at focus, would be like a meditation. Now, there's loads of forms of meditation. There's so many forms of meditation. And I should say one app that I use, and it got sent to me when I was doing that meditation challenge last year, or the year before. Jesus, I don't know. Is it a year? It's a year ago already. Yeah. The meditation challenge that I did, I basically started at 30 minutes and increased it by 3 minutes every day for a month. So it was like, I think it was like a 2-hour meditation at the end of the month, something like that. But what I used at the start to get me into that was an app called Neo. Very, very good app. Now, you can use the paid version or the free version, whatever is suits your lifestyle. But basically, it teaches you different forms of meditation because, as I said, there's loads of different forms. Now, I used Headspace before, but never really got into it as much. And I like, because I had done a bit of meditation before I used Headspace, so I much preferred Neo because it did help me. I suppose it taught me different things that work on different days. And that's really important because not the same meditation isn't going to work all the time. So I liked it for that. One thing that it did, a very simple one, if anyone wants to take it away, they don't have the app, was that you count to 10 breaths. Okay, so you go inhale, exhale, 1. Inhale, exhale, 2. And then, so basically, you're counting to 10. If you lose track though, you just come back to 1. Okay, and it's a lot harder than you think. When you're doing it nice and slow and you're really relaxed, it is a lot more difficult than you would expect. So I think that's a really, really good one, and it helps you kind of bring your focus to 1 point. And what I did is, like, I was very strict when I was doing it. If I had to think, was I on 5 or 6, because it was always the 5 or 6 mark, the 7 mark really caught me. Was I on 5 or 6 or was I on 7, I would just go straight back to the start and I would start again. Okay, and I found that a really, really good method in training me to stay focused. And then after a while, I was very consistent at getting to 10, and I knew I was at 10. And then I might go to 20, or I might just go back to 1 again and start again. But that was a really, really effective one for me, and it might work for you. But looking on from that, I guess you can also look at breathing exercises, whether it be box breathing, depending on what you want to do, just to help calm the mind and calm the body as well. Now, outside of that, we're looking at naps. And a nap is a very, very good one. And this is used across the board. There's a very famous jiu-jitsu practitioner called Marcelo Garcia, who would be the Ronaldo or the Messi in the jiu-jitsu world, who's known to nap up to 5 minutes before his fight. So he was napping basically in the changing room right up to before the fight started. He would wake up, his trainer would wake him up, say, let's go. He'd wake up, I think he'd have his stuff on already. He must have had his stuff on already, and he'd just go out and he'd compete then. And he found that it put him into a state of just complete focus when he woke up. I talk about naps a lot. I nap before nearly every podcast. I napped before this one, and I napped before the ones last week. I love it. It puts me into a great focused state. I like it. It kind of clears my mind a bit more. I try not to get on my phone or anything like that when I get up off it. And I just use it I find it's an effective strategy for me. Now, when you're nervous, some people can't nap, and I understand that. So what I would also say is, if you just lie down, close your eyes, chill out for 10 to 20 minutes, 26 minutes if you want to be exact. But between that time, you'll find that it's called a non-sleep rest. And it basically is very, very similar physiologically to your body than what a nap is, because you're reducing the amount of sensory information that's coming in, and you're setting time aside to rest. So that's also a very effective one. So if you find that you don't sleep, just lie down, close your eyes, don't listen to music or anything like that, and just zone out for the 10 or 15 minutes. When you wake up, you'll feel a lot better. Now, why is that good before a game? Well, if the game is in the evening, first, it kind of helps you regain your energy, and you'll start to feel a lot better after it. You'll feel like you have a second wind in the day, as opposed to the day always building up. And I find it's an excellent way of replenishing my energy systems overall. So naps are really good. Now to move into kind of the nitty gritty of it, we want to look at mobility and movement exercise. And I guess this wouldn't be the mobility experiment podcast if I didn't talk about this. So looking at mobility and movement exercise, let's look at it in two different stages. So you have it where it's, let's say, 2 to 4 to 5 hours before the game, or it could be when you get up in the morning, and then you have it 30 minutes to an hour before the game as well. So with this, I want you to keep it as simple as possible. In your, let's say, 4 hours before the game, what I would say to be looking at is a very general movement set. So you're just working through movements at an easy pace, ones that get the whole body working, nothing too specific, but that make you feel good and that aren't too strenuous. Okay? Doing that is a great way to keep you relaxed. It's a great way to keep you focused. It's a great way to improve your body awareness. And in general, you'll just feel looser after it. You'll feel better after it. Now, you can also, I would say, with that, what I like to do, and depending on what clients I'm working with, I will add in novel exercises. So just one new exercise that they may not have done before or wouldn't have done very often. And the reason I do that is because I like the idea of having them go through a nice general set that they can get through, and they get the body feeling better. But that one novel exercise gets them thinking about their body that small bit more. So they become a bit more aware of their body, and it's basically like a puzzle. You're trying to figure out a new thing. Very, very small, very easy, but it's just something new and something novel in the state of relaxation. So they'll usually fall into it straight away and they'll get used to it. But the fact that it's a new exercise, I like that idea because it gets them thinking about their body and more aware of their body early in the day. So one novel exercise, stick that in early in the day if you like. After that then, when it gets closer to the game, let's say it's 30 minutes before the game, or before your warm-up, then you can kind of get a small bit more specific. But I still think that you should keep the general exercises in there. The ones that like work the whole spine, the ones that work your lower body, the ones that work your upper body. I think you should still keep a good few general exercises in there, because like when you get out, you're not going to be using just specific movements all the time. So you will obviously want to be more mobile. You want to be feeling better. You want to be able to get into different positions and out of different positions. So always include general, and then focus more specifically on ones that you like. So let's say hip mobility exercises after that. I would do movement, and then I would do some type of a strength exercise with it. I would definitely focus on areas that you're using more. If you're on the field and you're running, that's why I said hip is good. If you're boxing, you need to do obviously upper body exercises. They're also very, very good. But just keep on top of those and just work out different ones that work for you. Okay, and then if you want to, include one little novel exercise there as well, just to kind of get you thinking that small bit more, figuring it out. It can be an exercise literally that you make up. It doesn't have to be something that's like you take off Instagram or whatever, you take off my page or wherever you go. Just you can make it up. Just it changes it's like a movement restoration exercise. It just kind of changes your view on how your body's working. And both of those sessions should not really be more than 10 minutes. 5 to 10 minutes is perfect for that. Okay, you don't need a big 30-minute, 40-minute session before a game, because that will take your energy as well. So 10 minutes is very good. Now, the next one is PAP, so that's post-activation potentiation, and a very quick way of describing it. If you go for a heavy squat, like let's say a 3-rep max squat, and then you go and you try to do a box jump after, you'll find that your box jump will be way higher than if you had not done that heavy squat at all, or if you had done a lighter squat. And that's post-activation potentiation. That's your nervous system primed for a higher power output. So you can use that same principle before a game, and you can include it in your warm-up. And a lot of the time, the warm-ups that you do will actually work towards that, but this is like a pre-warm-up exercise, a couple of exercises that you do. Now, as I said, you're looking to prime the nervous system. What are you doing? You're doing sets of power exercises or plyometric exercises. You're doing very low reps, very low sets, and all explosive. Okay, so it's very, very important to look at what ones work for you, and you're not just going to introduce ones a day of a game that you've never done before. With this, usually you'd have these practiced a good bit before you start reintroducing them. But things like ball slams, hex bar jumps, lateral hops, broad jumps, triple jumps, anything like that, box jumps if you want to, explosive exercises, but only 2 exercises or 3 exercises, very low reps, as I said, 1, 2 or 3 reps, and then sets wise you're looking at 2 sets or 3 sets, and you're taking as much rest as you need between them. Now these are exercises that I find very, very good, the ones that I listed off there. I'm not a huge fan. Not that I'm not a huge fan. If it works for you, do grand. But other than that, I'm not a fan of them. Activation exercises where you're putting bands around and you're isolating muscles to get them activating or working more, even though they will never work in isolation. So it doesn't make. That's why I kind of have a problem with that. Is they don't really work in isolation. So if you're doing crab walks to activate your glutes, really what you're doing is you're fatiguing a certain part of your glute that small bit more to get it working, when you could activate the glute the exact same way with a jump. So that's why I kind of have a, like, what's the idea of it? There's no relation to the game that you're going playing. You're basically just doing a little hypertrophy exercise before the game to get it activated, or to get it warmed up. People do it with their glutes all the time. That's the one I always see, is the crab box, or the lying on the ground and opening your leg out. As I said, has very, very, very little relation to the game that you're doing. I don't understand the transfer of it as much. I understand that you're using that muscle, but what's the nervous system having to figure out to use that muscle? Nothing really. Now, it's different if you have injuries and you're actually trying to get that working a small bit more, the muscles around it working a small bit more. But I would look at doing movements that actually relate to the game that you're doing. Then I would say, okay, granted, those activation exercises are better. But I think people try to overcomplicate it a small bit with stuff that they do, and they like the fact that they do all these different exercises before they get out on the pitch. Grand. Same as foam rolling. Don't understand why you would go foam rolling before a game. Heavy, because all you're doing is overloading that system. And then when you get out there, you don't really feel it as much anymore. And then you will notice that the knock comes back after a while. Take care of it before the game as opposed to just foam rolling right before the game. But, as I said, and I should finish, that's my opinion. So do what you like to do and continue doing what you like to do if you feel it improves your performance. But just get the right things. Do the right things first, and then look at all those accessory stuff, or all the accessory things after that. So, yeah, foam rolling for me before a game, I wouldn't be a fan. I don't see the idea of it too much. Also, the same idea with those banded exercises, especially if you're like a 100 kilo player, if you're a 90 kilo player and you have a little band that's supposed to help activate muscles, very little that's doing for you. Okay, only if it sets your mind in the right place though, then grand. Then I have no problem with it, and you should continue doing that. But it shouldn't be your go-to. My little rant is over now about that. But as I said, you do you, and do what your team is doing. But just make sure that it's not your primary one. Outside of that, then, I would look at, when you get on the pitch or when you get to your sport, you're looking at game-specific drills, game-specific activities. Running, especially when it comes to GAA, running in and out, doing hand passing. If you ever got that in a game, that position that you're just running up and down doing little hand passes, that'd be very good. Be very relaxed game. But when you're talking about championship and you're talking about big games, if you're not practicing the certain movements that you have to do and then progressing the speed that you do that and then making it more complex, well then that's not that effective for the game when you're actually in it. So I think that you need to progress or start at a level and progress, definitely. But I think there has to be contact in a warm-up. There has to be a good bit of contact in a warm-up, because I think a lot of teams miss out on contacts, they miss out on jumps, they miss out on power movements, and this, I guess I can translate this over to different exercises, or different sports, whether it be, let's just look at like basketball. You should be practicing jumps, you should be practicing pushing off, you should be practicing pushing through players if you have to. Same thing with football and hurling. You need to be able to take a shoulder, you need to be able to hit off somebody. Rugby, obviously you're going to practice tackles. You definitely should practice tackles. If you don't practice tackles, that would be a bit crazy. When you're looking at like tennis and that, you need to be able to jump and land at opposite sides. And the same thing is when you're looking at running. Well, I suppose you probably should have a bit of running done before you start the actual run. But runners know that, so they're not going to, in general, they know that. So you can also include those hopping exercises, jumping exercises when you are doing running as well, because they will also be effective in that. But just don't do a lot of them. You don't need to do loads and loads and loads of them. You're looking to prime. You're not looking to fatigue. So yeah, I think specific drills are very important. Jumping, catching, landing, taking a hit when you land, having to figure out something as opposed to everything just being set for you is a very good one, because that kind of puts your mindset into that you're in like a matrix, or it's a puzzle that you need to figure stuff out, because that's what a game is. Games aren't just perfect, that everything works out. So you should have that included in your warm-up, that there should be some part of it, a small part, whatever, however large you want it to be, that it's complex, a lot of chaos, and that you need to figure things out, because then the body is set more for that. And that's, I think, it's a good idea right before the game. So that is basically everything I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to just go through a lot of those different techniques that people use, that they do at different levels. I kind of wanted to keep it to the physical prep as opposed to like the cognitive prep or what you would eat and stuff like that, because I've done other podcasts. If you're interested to go back, I did a podcast with Damien O'Sullivan. It's basically, or Damien O'Sullivan I should say, and we basically talk about the difference, like your diet coming up to a game. That was number 30 something. It was nutritional strategies for athletes is what it was called, and it basically talks about different things that you can do before or leading up to the game, in the week of a game, to talk or to prepare yourself physically as well for the game, but it's obviously nutritional based. So that's, yeah, as I said, that's everything, guys. Now, as I said, I'm going to kind of finish on this point, is that you do you, okay? So do what works for you before a game. And all I want to give out here was different suggestions, and then my opinion as well. And people who know me will know that I'm opinionated on stuff. So I try to get the best of both sides. I try to figure out what both sides would do and meet in the middle. And there is some things that I just find that people are doing that they're wasting their time when they could spend their time doing other more effective strategies. And that's when I come back to that foam rolling, and when I come back to those activation exercises, that if you want to do them, then I think you should do them. And if it's an injury related one, okay, I don't really have an issue with you doing. But if it's taking up 10 or 15 minutes before a game that you could do doing those PAP exercises, that you could be doing game specific skills, then I think it's wasted. And when it actually gets into the warm-up, you need to be looking at different exercises and maybe hinges or jump landings and stuff like that, so that your body is more primed for the sport. Okay, because isolating muscles is a sure way of getting injured, and that's kind of why I have an issue with it. If you put a bodybuilder on a pitch, he'd be very likely to injure himself, because of the fact that what they do is, and they get very, very, very good at it, is using their nervous system to isolate muscles. Now, that's very effective strategy if you want muscle growth at a certain muscle, but if you're looking for movement patterns, you need those muscles coordinating as best as possible, as opposed to just isolating. And that's kind of why I want to look at that, or that's why I want to shed light on it a small bit more. But yeah, that's basically it. If you know anyone, and I should say, or if you yourself are struggling with injuries long term, definitely get in contact. We can talk through a bit of a plan, or we can talk through your injuries, talk through what you can do, and then make a bit of a plan if you want to go forward with it. As I said, otherwise there's no problem. You'll jump off the phone with a better understanding of what to do yourself, which is kind of what you like. Even if we do make a plan, and even if we go to follow through that plan and you want to jump on board, it will still be you. I will only be guiding you along on what you can do. So you need to make that commitment to get your body right, and commitment to get yourself right, because there's no point lacking confidence in your body going forward. You want to be making sure that you are confident when you're 50 years old, 60 years old, to go for a hike with your kids, play with your grandchildren, or continue to do the activities that you enjoy doing or love to do. So yeah, guys, that's everything. Thank you so much for listening again this week. I hope that you took value from this, and I hope you have a different opinion or different perspective leaving this. So take what I said, have a think about it, see what you agree with and disagree with, and get back to me on Instagram and let me know, because we can flesh it out a small bit more then. But that's everything for me, guys. I hope everyone is doing well out there. We're transitioning back into the winter now again, or autumn, so I hope everyone's preparing for that. I know lockdown the things are finishing up in Ireland soon enough, and hopefully everyone in different countries in Australia and England, America, I know there's different countries that listen to this. I hope, I should say the UK, not just England. I hope that everyone there is doing well and life is going good for them. But yeah, that's everything from me, and I will chat to you all again next week. So have a good one.